Alright, here in the workshop today, I'm going to show you how to mount a Caddx Turtle into an EPP plane or EPP wing like the, this is the VAS Specter. This is the big one, the 48-inch one. I've already done this to another plane. I have it right here. This is basically what we're going to be doing to this plane today. We're going to make a hatch cover that closes easily. And we're going to mount the board for the turtle in there in a way that you can access the buttons and the SD card, and we're going to go ahead and mount the camera in the front. So we're basically going to do this on a larger scale. We're going to do things a little different rather than Velcro. We're going to use magnets, and this one is very tight on space here between where the battery needs to go and where the camera is. We've got a lot more space to work with, so we're doing a nicer job. We're going to cut a mounting plate out of wood, mount the turtle to it, the board to it, and get everything in there mounted nice, and then go ahead and make the hatch. So we're going to need a few things. We're going to need turtle camera, which I have right here. I've already just kind of stuck it in there for size. I've got mine on a mounting plate, but it's not necessary. You can just use some double-sided tape in place of that, but I'm going to go ahead and glue this. This is a TPU mounting plate. I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the board that I'm gluing into the plane and just kind of make it permanent with a nice standoff. It's going to look better. Not necessary. You can just use some double-sided tape. It would work fine. But I want mine to look really nice, even under the hatch. So I'm also going to need a small piece of wood. You can use balsa. This is just a small piece of hobby plywood that I got for like $1.79 at the local store. So a small piece of wood, balsa's fine, plywood's fine. You don't want it very thick. This is what is this size? 1/8 inch, and maybe even smaller than this would be fine, would be even better. But this is what I got on hand, so we're gonna go ahead and use this. So we're gonna need some hot glue. Whenever you're putting things in planes and you might want to take them out later, use hot glue because it is easy to release. The camera that was in here was a Swift 2. I've taken it out. It's right here. Because it was hot glued in, I just a little alcohol and it came right out. I also had a mount here to hold a HD camera, which I've also removed. Hot glue came right out. Alright, and we're also going to need for the hatch a piece of coroplast. I've got 4mm, I believe. Or is this 6mm? Doesn't say, but available at the local store. This is, I believe it's 4mm coroplast. Whatever color you want is also paintable, so we're going to cut a piece of that. And we're going to need some way to keep that closed. And on my other one, I've used Velcro, which is a good solution. The Velcro right here just holds the hatch down while you're in flight. There's a lot, the air is moving this way, so there's nothing really trying to pull it up. So you don't need a super strong hold, but this time we're going to actually use some magnets. So I've got some just ceramic magnets. Came from the same hobby store as the plywood. And they're not super strong, but strong enough to keep the canopy closed. And that's all they need to be. So we'll use those. Alright, so I'm going to break this video right here. And we'll come back and we'll start cutting the plywood and getting it ready to go on the plane. Alright, so I've done some measurements on the plane. And we're going to make this as wide as this TPU base here, which is about 36 centimeters, and that'll fit in the plane fine. And we're going to go with a length of about 45 centimeters. So we can always cut this down later if we need to. But I'm just going to make a mark here at 45. And I'm going to make a mark at 36. That's 35.5. That's 37. 36. Well, just use this. That'll make more sense. Okay. So we're going to cut this piece of wood out. This is going to be our base for mounting into the plane. It doesn't have to be exact. I mean, just make sure it's fit. You can always trim it down a bit. I'm just going to cut this out with a razor knife. You just score it, and then you Alright, so there we go. We've got our little wooden block, and we're going to mount the board to that this way. Well, actually the other way, this way. So that the button's in the front, the SD card's in the back, and we'll just make sure we've got enough space back there for that to eject. And we're good to go. So, now the next step is get the wooden block into the plane. So, we're going to go over to the plane. There's my camera. And cut this size out of it. Alright. Frame. So, we're going to mount this right here. We're pretty much going to line it up with the edge of the battery bay. Just like that. Let's straighten that up. Like that. And that's where our board's going to mount, and our camera's going to go here, and our canopy's going to attach right in between there. So, we're going to cut that, or mark it, and make some cuts. Alright, this is the rough estimate right there, where we need to cut. I'm going to cut a little to the inside of that, because we want it to be a nice tight fit. So I'm going to cut, let's see how deep it really needs to be. Get the board on the stack, just like that. Calipers go. So, it needs to be about 15 millimeters deep. So, it's 15 millimeters. Now, I'm going to cut to about 18 millimeters. That's the length of the blade I just set. There we go. So, here's the piece of film we took out. We're not going to throw this away, because we're going to need it a little later to help fill in some of this camera bay. The camera for the Caddx is smaller than the run cam, so put some of that back in there. But there's half the bay cut right here, and I'm just going to continue underneath this foam until I get to the end. Alright, so that's our bay cut in there. Let's see if the piece of wood fits. So, nope. It definitely doesn't fit. It's definitely too wide. So we need to cut a little more off the sides. How that goes. Yeah, I think that one's... We can jam it in there. Yeah. So, you don't want your opening to be as big as your wood, obviously. You want it to be a little smaller. So you gotta kind of use the wood to dig a little groove so that the wood kind of slots into the bottom. The bottom's just a little wider than the top. And I mean just a little wider. Yeah, millimeter or two. You know, create that little groove, and the wood will slide right into that. There we go. Perfect. Beautiful. So have a look at that. Slotted right into that bay perfectly. So we're going to get that glued in there. And then we're going to add the camera board on top. Alright. So this piece of wood, we don't really want this to be removable, so we're not going to use hot glue. We use something a little more permanent. We're going to use some E6000 and just glue that bad boy in there so that it stays. Because that's not going to be coming out. The electronics we're putting in with hot glue make them able to be removed if you choose. But this piece of wood is going to stay in the plane forever. So we're just going to take some E6000, put a nice coat at the bottom of this piece of wood. There we go. Put a nice layer on there. And just like before, we're going to slot it into the side just like that and push it down. And there we go. That's a beautiful thing. Now, because we made that such a nice tight friction fit, the E6000, we don't need to wait for that to dry, because that board is not going to move. So we can just carry on without waiting for the glue to dry. So next thing, we're going to put the camera board in, and that's going to fit in. So I'm just going to go sideways just like this. We'll put the button in the front and the SD card in the back, just like that. So I'm going to glue with some hot glue the TPU mounting plate that it's on down to that wood. So we'll pause this for a minute, get the glue gun warmed up, and then we'll continue on. Okay, so we got the glue gun warmed up. I'm just going to put a bead of glue around the edge of this thing. And put her in there. Just hold that for a second until it's dry. And I think that is not going anywhere. Okay, so just need to cut a little recess right here on the foam so we can get to the button. Actually, move that back quite far. So the SD card come out no problem. Even with a battery in, you can get that SD card out without an issue. But the yeah, there we go. But the button here is a little inaccessible. So we're just going to cut a little foam away from here. We're also going to cut the channel for the wires. And then we're going to fill right behind this camera with some foam and glue that camera in. So let me just cut this little spot here so my finger can get to that button a little easier. So you can see that. Just cut a little foam away so I can easily push the on-off button. Though I'll probably set it to auto record and never even push that button, but I can. Just cut away a little foam. Okay, so we need a channel for the wires to go from the board to the camera. So let's cut that. Just tuck those in there. Need like a screwdriver. There we go. Alright, so that's in there. One more thing we need to do is the run cam was bigger than this camera, so we need to cut a piece of foam to go behind this camera to make sure it doesn't slide back into that crevice, also just to keep the structural integrity of the nose together. So cut that little square. Fits perfectly behind the camera. So we'll glue that and the camera in at the same time. So I've unplugged the glue gun. We're not going to need it for a few minutes. And the next thing we really need to do is the wiring. So here's the harness coming from the VTX to my old cam. And here is the wiring harness from the Turtle. So we need to get our soldering gun out and join those two up. So I'll probably just cut to the end of this. I mean, soldering's pretty easy. You don't need to see it. So I'll take care of that, and I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got the soldering done. We've just got a little bit of hot glue securing the wires right there in the back. So, moving on to the next step, we're going to start making the canopy that's going to go over and cover all this. So, we've got our magnets, and we're just going to put them where we want them. Okay, now obviously we need to secure those. Oh, gotta plug it back in. I'm gonna pause this while the gun warms up. Alright, so glue gun's warm. Just gonna shoot some glue in the hole. Press the magnet in. Okay, yep, we got our magnets mounted. Next job is get the coroplast out and cut a piece of that. I'm just gonna leave the hot glue gun right here. Okay, so here's our coroplast, and I'm just going to cut a smaller piece for us to work with. Okay, there we go. So whenever you're making a coroplast hatch, you want to go with the grain across the plane, because that's how we're going to make our lid move. So make sure that your grain is going the right direction, so that when you cut one of them, it will hinge. Okay, so we want to cover all this up just like that. So I'm just going to use the bottom of the plate here, actually. It's the same shape. I'm going to go back about that far. Where's my marker? So we're going to cut it to this shape. Okay. That's good enough to start. Cut it like right here. Okay, so when you cut the coroplast, you just cut with the flutes, so you get a nice straight cut. Take a look at that. Not too bad. A little bit needs to be trimmed off. What we're going to do is track our blade way in. There's a little bit of it shows. We're going to cut a hinge on the fourth flute here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right. There we go. So we only cut through half. This way. Let's see, we made that. So now I hinge up like this. So these two edges here, I'm just going to trim those away so that it kind of goes the other way as well, because it needs to follow the curve of the aircraft here. Okay. See what I did there? Just remove one whole flute there so that it'll bend. Okay. Pretty good. Alright, let's glue it on. So, we're just going to put glue on this side, glue that down to the plane. And hot glue is fine for this. It's not going to be under any heat or real stress. I just realized I need to cut that differently. Okay, just line it up, press it down, let it dry. And then we're going to run one more additional bead right along the front here. Okay, yep, that's attached. Alright, the only thing left to do is add some magnets to the lid here so that it stays down on here. Now we could add magnets, or we could just put a piece of metal in there. Let me see if I have something that will work. So I got a piece of 440 rod, not 440, 256 rod, threaded rod. I'm going to try that. So, nah, it's not great. It sticks well, but no, I need something stronger than that. So, let's see what else. All right, I'm going to pause this and see if I can find something that'll work. If not, we can always use more of these round magnets, but putting them in the lid is going to be a pain in the butt. We're going to have to cut a lot of the plastic away. So, it definitely will work though. They're strong. But let me see what else I can find. What I'm going to look for is, I'm going to see if I have any broken motors and see if I can get the magnets out of those. So, I'll be right back. Okay, so what I did was I went and got an old beat up 1306 motor from one of my 3-inch drones. And I was able to source some magnets out of that. It was already apart, and it was already missing some magnets, so I don't feel bad cannibalizing it, but I got 4 of these little tiny motor magnets, and we're going to try and see what they do if we put them in here. To put them inside the chloroplast, it really isn't working out. So I think I'm just going to attach them to the outside of the chloroplast. I think that'll work better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the small magnets onto the bigger magnets the way that I want them, and then put some hot glue on them, and then close the lid. Make sense? Whatever you want. That works well. There we go. That's what we were going for. Like that nice responsive lock, click lock. That's good. Okay, so I think we're just about done. That's beautiful. Exactly what I was going for. Okay. Kind of just a little more glue to those magnets. So we're going to let that dry. And then check and make sure that everything works properly. Got a little bit of touch-up work to do in here with some laminate, but other than that, this project's done. So there you got it.